After some time had passed, Brittany arrived along with several waitresses. Han stood up and held Celestra's hand and walked over to the dining table. Sitting down at the head of the table, he gestured for Selestra to sit on his right side. On his left sat Brittany and the remaining companions, sitting wherever was convenient. The waitresses placed each dish in front of the person that requested it. Each dish looked like something out of a 5-star hotel. Along with their dish, each person was poured water and a juice of their choosing. Once their dishes and drinks were served, the waitresses waited to the side until everyone was finished. Selestra looked at her dish and looked confused by all the parts. Han chuckled at her expression and got up to stand next to her. Taking a piece of lettuce, he cupped it into his palm. Materializing some chopsticks, he used them to grab a piece of short rib and place it onto the center of the lettuce. Placing a small portion of rice, he then topped it with an assortment of side dishes. Skillfully, he wrapped the ingredients with the lettuce so that it was easier to eat. "Open your mouth wide," Han whispered into her ear. Submissively, Selestra opened her mouth and accepted the wrap. She chewed the wrap and moaned in pleasure from the different flavors interacting with one another. Sitting back down, he cut off a piece of his steak and enjoyed how juicy it was. The meat felt like it was melting in his mouth. There was barely any chewing needed. "Tell the chef that I am very satisfied with the food that he has prepared. I am sure that everyone can agree with me," he smiled. Everyone nodded in agreement, enjoying the delicious food. After eating half of his steak, he noticed that Selestra wasn't eating her food. Looking at her, he asked, "Are you full?" He knew that she enjoyed the food, so he was confused why she didn't eat the rest of it after he showed her how to make a wrap. With a blushing face, Selestra murmured, "I want you to feed me." "Do you now?" he laughed. It seemed that receiving a ring from him made her very submissive. Getting up and going towards her, he stroked her hair. "You seem to have become very spoiled," he chuckled. Grabbing a piece of lettuce, he repeated the process and placed each ingredient into the wrap. With the steadiness of someone who had eaten at numerous Korean barbecue establishments, he wrapped the ingredients. Lowering his head, he whispered, "Open that adorable mouth of yours." Obediently, she opened her mouth and ate the wrap that Han placed into her mouth. "That's a good girl," he said to her as he petted her. Selestra smiled happily, having been fed by Han. Han lay on top of his bed, enjoying how comfortable it felt. If there were a way to sleep on top of a cloud, the experience would be similar to how the mattress felt. The bed was huge and lay on top of the tent's floor. There were pillows strewn all over the bed, along with thick and fluffy blankets. He sighed in relief, just enjoying the moment. A part of him felt like some warlord as he lay on top of everything. Considering that he had a harem of women, calling himself a warlord was a relatively apt description. At the sound of footsteps, he rolled to the side and rested his head on his hand. He was surprised by who was entering his bedchamber. Instead of his companions, it was Selestra, who was wearing a very sheer robe. The mana crystals that lit up the interior showed her outline. "What do we have here?" he grinned at her. Out of all the girls he knew, he didn't expect such an innocent girl to be so bold. The reason why he created the second bedroom was that he didn't intend to move things in this direction. Considering the number of beautiful women that were around him, it was unnecessary to force a woman into such an intimate scene. Though Selestra was blushing, considering how she wasn't wearing anything under that robe, she walked towards him. It was an interesting combination where Selestra looked both submissive and confident. She looked like she knew what she wanted, but was still looking for permission. Stopping just in front of his bed, she stood there waiting. "Slowly turn around," he ordered. Like a dancer, she gracefully turned around so that her back was facing him. There was no straight line on her body. Her hips and rear were voluptuous. She turned her head slightly so that she could see him. "Remove your robe," he ordered. Her arms moved as her hands undid the silk belt. The top of her robe slowly opened up and exposed her pale shoulders. Instead of falling to the ground, Selestra had the robe slowly glide off her body. The top of her back was exposed, revealing slight definitions of her shoulder blades as they moved under the skin. She had her forearms perpendicular to her body, so her robe was held there. Her back was fully exposed, with a little bit of her butt showing. Compared to having the robes fall quickly, the way she dragged out the process quickened his breathing. He couldn't believe such an innocent woman knew how to make his heart beat faster. He could feel her eyes on him, so Han nodded his head for her to remove the rest of her robe. Seeing him give her permission, she lowered her hands and let the robe slip off her arms. Like the pink petals from a sakura tree, the robes gently landed on the ground around her feet. With the robes no longer covering her, the image was day and night. The color from the mana crystals against her pale skin made it look more radiant. She reminded him of those Asian folklores he used to read, where a farmer would stumble upon a celestial woman taking a bath. Even though she may not have been the most beautiful girl he had seen, the fact that she was so obedient made a carnal emotion well up from deep within. As calmly as he could, he lifted up his wrist, keeping his hand loose and pointing to the ground. Lifting up only his middle ring and pinky finger, he kept his index finger loose. With his index finger, he made a circling motion to let her know to turn around. Without any hesitation, Selestra turned around so that the shape of her breast was slowly exposed to him. When she was facing him, she didn't even bother to try and cover her front up with her arms. His index fingers curled to signal for her to come towards him. Reaching the bed, Selestra got on all fours and crawled towards him. Before she got any closer, he placed a finger on her collarbone. Stopping, she didn't appear confused, about, or embarrassed, being on all fours with her breasts hanging down. It was as if this position was the most natural position for her to be in. Using his left hand, he caressed her face and then proceeded to gently move her hair so that all of it was cascading in front of her left shoulder. With his index finger, Han traced the outline of her face. "You are so obedient. What made you come to me like some animal?" he asked her. "The moment you placed that ring on my finger, I no longer wanted to be apart from you. I talked to the other girls, and they gave me permission to come to you wearing only a robe. Coming here, I wanted to let you know that I belong only to you. There's no one else who I want to belong to," she said as she began to breathe in deeply. Though she was trying to stay calm, the pace of her breathing was slowly getting faster. Breathing in deeper was her way of trying to control the feelings that were seeping out. "You want me to possess you?" he asked, grinning. Are you sure that having me possess you and own you is what you desire? Hearing him talking about owning her, both of her pupils fully dilated. Yes, was all that she said. She swallowed the excess saliva that was being produced in her mouth. Placing his fingers on her neck, he created a black leather collar decorated with blood-red rubies. The front of the collar had a ring to allow a leash to be attached to it. A screen popped up with a title saying, "Lover's Collar." You have created a collar to symbolize the fervent love of one that considers themselves to be your property. Such devotion could only be adequately shown by something that signifies submission. In addition to giving the subject a sense of belonging to someone greater than themselves, this collar provides high defense against physical and magical attacks. In addition to providing defensive attributes, the collar also provides regenerative, healing, and locational tracking across dimensions. The collar is only able to be removed by the owner of the subject wearing the collar. Feeling the collar around her neck, Selestra used her fingers to feel the object that symbolized her being owned by another. Knowing that she had not belonged to Han, her lips began to twitch into a smile. Seeing that she enjoyed the gift that he gave her, he also felt himself smiling. Grabbing the metal ring on the collar, Han pulled it towards him, which forced Selestra to move. Without needing to be told, Selestra passionately kissed Han. He felt her tongue enter his mouth and attempt to wrap around his own. She moaned in pleasure as their lips were sealed together.